Welcome everybody to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here on Black Star Network. And today, we're going to be talking about relationships and the holidays and how our money impacts and affects the things that we do surrounding what we want to buy, the people that we hang around, and overall, generally, do you have yourself together for the holidays? Yeah, I know it's not easy, but you're working on yourself and you're trying to get there. Today, we're going to be talking to Dr. Leroy Scott as well as Pam Sams. They are joining us today to give us an opportunity to discover what it looks like to navigate the nuances of the holidays and our relationship with ourselves, our money, and other people. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hey.
How you doing? I am excited that you all are here today because this gives us an opportunity to kind of set the tone for how do we build a relationship first with ourselves. I know that during the holidays, there are times where I have felt like I want to reach out to people that I have either blocked or taken out of my phone because somewhere in me during the holidays, I feel this genuine concern about how they're doing. And then all these memories start to come back in my head, Dr. Scott, about why I should just let it go and keep it moving. Everybody, meet Dr. Scott. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice and the work you do, and then kind of walk us through this relationship with self that's so important before we start having relationships with other people.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me, Jackie. I'm Leroy Scott. I've been in the mental health industry for over 25 to 30 years. I got into this industry when I was 18 years old in the United States Navy and serving this country and working with military guys during war and trauma, and worked 9/11, worked Hurricane Katrina, school shootings. So I've been in this industry for a very, very long time. And now I get the privilege and the honor of working with some really, really, really great people. I've been serving clients in private practice for probably over 15 years. And some of those therapeutic relationships have been long-term. So I've people, if you could reach me at leroyscott.com or Google Leroy Scott. There's not too many Leroys, too many Leroys around. So if you put Leroy Scott in, you'll have an opportunity to get to my website and see books and everything like that. But Jackie, you pose I'm appreciative of the question you pose and where you start this conversation, because I've had thought about this and looked at some of the psychological research on what we call becoming yourself, right? Having this really, really good relationship with yourself and how you build that and how you become who you should be or who you were made to be or what your purpose is. And I think at this point in my work, I'm believing that process of human development, which is what it is the development of the brain, development of your social interactions, engage with your personality, and to become who you should be, like to build this relationship with you, with the self, with what's in psychology we call the self, I think is one of the most difficult human processes to have to endure. And I say that because if that was an easy process, then everybody would do it very quickly, without any reservation or any challenges. But if you think about becoming who you are, that's a very, very, very complicated process. And people are always saying, be yourself, don't worry about this, don't worry about that. But if you were honest about it, we're just not wired that way. I mean, if you think about how we're made, we're wired to survive. Like at the end of the day, our brains are designed for us to survive. We get fight or flight. If we couldn't get scared, then we wouldn't know whether or not to save our lives or fight back, right? You get 100 great comments on social media about something you post, but this one negative comment, you can't go to sleep because it's just lingering in your head. And I tell people, I think the first step to becoming who you are is accepting the reality of the inabilities or the challenges that you have and the difficulties and the trauma that you may have experienced, and learning to accept the way you are, like the way God made you, which I think is the prerequisite to going to the other phases of becoming who you are, but just accepting who you are in the moment you decide that becoming you is something that's relevant and important to your life. So I tell people all the time, I think the first step to being yourself is accepting who you are, where you are in your life, and embracing that reality in a way that doesn't make you depressed or discouraged, but gives you hope and inspiration.
I want to ask you a follow-up question to that, because I like what you said related to becoming who you are and accepting that. Where does it fit in with the things that we were taught? Because oftentimes we believe that what we were taught and how we were raised to a degree sets the tone and the stage for who we're in the process of becoming. But that also, in its levels of toxicity, could be parents and people who raise other people, they go too far. So how do you begin to find who you are naturally meant to be in this world? Like your natural proclivities, the things you enjoy, oh, I love to go outside and be in nature, but somebody says, ooh, there are bugs outside, don't go out there. So all of a sudden you don't want to go out there. So how much of our formative years are we shaped by the opinions of other people? And then how do we release ourselves from those once we're like, that's really not me at all?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I would say there's a significant portion, because if you think about brain development, our brains are not fully developed until the age of maybe 23 to 25 years old. Those formal years of brain development, where kids have a better opportunity to learn language and grow when you're very young, those experiences impact us in a way that, well, let me do it this way, right? So people feel at times, unless it's trauma related things, right? But breaking away from traditional family and social influences, it evolves, right? So you kind of grow. So you've got to be patient with yourself and really understand. You've got to be patient with yourself, and you've got to understand that regardless of how difficult it may seem to break away from traditional things that you learn, and that is difficult. Like I've got people that have been oriented to church things and religious things and family oriented to family system things, and it seems very difficult to break away from those things. What I tell people is to relax around those things and learn to embrace the reality and understand why those things existed. Because what I'm finding is that people feel that it's either this or that. I've got to really break away from these historical things, like you said. Like I didn't want to go out the park, but I don't want to go to the park. But people may say, "Well, you don't need to do this, or you don't need to do that." You've got to realize that we don't exist without a society. Like people's social remarks and social opinions, they really matter to us, right? Because it's cortisol in your bloodstream, it's anxiety, you get anxious. So you have to really pull back and be patient with yourself. And you have to accept that part of what's going on is just a biological response to the situation that you're in. And you don't have to put too much pressure on yourself in changing and evolving. So we've got to learn to relax and be more patient with ourselves. And over time, we can actually grow out of traditional things that we've been taught that we want to break away from. But I think the thing I'm learning the most, and I would say, is that if we need to do anything that is urgent, I believe, in becoming yourself or breaking away from historical things, number one, it's being very patient with yourself. And number two, I think it's accepting and embracing the totality of who you are. Even if you want to break away from some things, the first step to doing that is accepting those things and embracing those things as part of your story, part of your journey, and part of your life.
I appreciate you saying that, because I recognize that people do struggle in many, many ways with it's not oftentimes either or. very often it's both and that lies in the struggle of people trying to determine, do I do what my family wants? Do I do what people say I should do? Or is there space for me to determine my own route, my own way to go, my own, directionality for the things that I want to do in my life? I'm going to pick up this conversation after the break because I want to dive into setting the tone for how do we marry the two. Next, we're going to talk to Pam Sams after the break because it's important for us to not only develop a relationship with yourself and how you understand you, but also your relationship with money and how that ties in to just about everything in our lives. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Scott has given us a great foundation for helping us understand what we need to do to become who we are and to get to know ourselves better. And there is an area in all of our lives where, if you're honest, you will say that you struggle, and it's your personal relationship with money, which could be tied to how you were raised. Pam Sams, welcome in.
Thank you.
Pam, I think we probably have this conversation every time we talk, and I don't know if I can drive it home enough. The value of importance of understanding who you are and your relationship with money and finances, and whether it's a love-hate relationship or not, oftentimes our relationship with money can drive how we interact with other people. Can you talk to us a little bit related to why having clear perspectives and clarity on dollars makes a lot of sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a very interesting question that you had mentioned before, is that Dr. Scott really outlined what we need to do in terms of understanding ourselves. We need to get that together before we really understand our relationship with money. It comes down to, I do a behavioral finance, so I take a lot of who people are behaviorally in terms of how they deal with their money. It's a values-based conversation. So whatever you value is basically what you spend money on. So we go through, if one of your values family, if that's the case, it's a hard time, especially during the holidays, because if family is one of your values, you may tend to overspend because you're really trying to compensate on pleasing everybody in the family. Everybody gets a gift. Everybody gets expensive gifts, whatever the case may be. So understanding where people are in terms of what their values are will determine what they're going to spend their money on. And then, unfortunately, sometimes people beat themselves up because now they're really focused on maybe people pleasing and giving away more than they actually have. So it comes down to understanding what your needs are and what you need for yourself, and then, displaying that outwardly for others.
That outward explanation sometimes come with being able to opt out. Could both of you share, how do you say no without appearing ungrateful? Because I know there are family dynamics where individuals are like, well, you got to get from our family, your family, or you didn't do anything. So then there's this guilt for opting out without people understanding really what's happening with you and your finances. I want to start with Dr. Scott first, because the emotional coping skills related, some people just can't say no. An escape plan could be right there in their face and they wouldn't know how to accept it or take it. How do we help people get the coping skills to then get to the no question, the no answer?
Yeah, like that's really difficult, right? So we say, what I normally say is, good people that are considered to be good people, if you got a good aunt or a good grandmother or a good friend, those are normally yes people. They're gonna always be like, yes, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they all often overextend themselves, and at the end of the day, they suffer stress consequences, anxiety consequences for doing that, right? So I think the best way to think about it's not whether or not you say no, but it's why you should say no, right? And I always frame it that way for people, right? You don't have to say no just for the sake of saying no. And people that are not necessarily no people, it's really related to your personality, it's your psychology, but primarily it's driven by personality. And you've got to learn to dance with the person you are, right? Because personality over time, what the research shows is that we don't get too far away from who we really are from a personality perspective. So you've got to learn to dance with that, right? So what I would say to people, if you've got a very difficult time saying no, then you don't have to force yourself into a box to say no to things that you may not necessarily have to say no to. So again, you've got to relax, you've got to breathe, you've got to accept where you are. And then you've got to weigh out whether or not saying no to this particular person is going to cause more stress on you than not, right? So it's not, when we're setting boundaries, what I find is that setting boundaries sometimes for yourself can be more stressful than not. And the reason is because people force themselves into doing things that they're not naturally made to do. So what you've got to do is you've got to take very, very small steps in setting boundaries, and particularly with saying, no, I'm not doing this, or no, I'm not doing that. And the more patient you are with yourself, the more fluid you are or dynamic you are in really ensuring that, you setting those boundaries is not causing extreme stress on yourself. You start with things with ownership. I think you start with ownership, that you have the right to decide what you do with what you have, who you're going to give to and who you're not going to give to. And just because I give to this niece or nephew this year, I may give to a different niece or nephew next year. But guess what? I get to decide what I say yes to and what I say no to. And you've also got to realize that when you're trying to set that boundary and you say no, you are going to feel guilty for saying no. So just breathe, just relax. Know that all of those emotions of guilt and you're setting a boundary, know that all of those negative emotions, you're going to feel them. But this is the key. They will pass. It's going to take time, but those emotions will pass. And the more you train your brain and give your brain and yourself permission to be able to say no when you feel it's reasonable and it's good for you to do that, over time, you will become more and more comfortable with being able to set that boundary. But you don't have to force yourself into it. Do it in small steps. Take easy strides towards getting it done.
I like that.
Easy.
Be easy on yourself, you say. So Pam, this opting out financially, especially when traditions no longer align with your financial balance, what are some practical ways that individuals can either opt out or choose a different way to be engaged without completely disappearing? Because some people just say, I'm not coming then. And who is that fair to if you have to, totally exclude yourself from things that really used to bring you joy?
Exactly. It's a matter of what Dr. Scott said, is setting those boundaries, setting expectations, especially, unfortunately, during times where we may not have the resources and we are ashamed to tell people we don't have the resources. We tend to kind of fade into the background with that. Would be open and honest. Like, right now it may be a difficult time for me. In the past I may have did XYZ and I was able to, provide or, give resources to others. But now I'm in a different situation. So you have to kind of set those boundaries and expectations on where you are, and then really be able to be open and honest with people. If you open and honest with your friends or your family, they understand. People are going through difficult times economically. But if you set those boundaries and expectations, you would feel a little bit less guilty with not showing up to things or feeling guilty because you didn't give this particular year because you just don't have the resources.
So Pam, what are some of the dangers right now, especially in these times in economy where people do not know if they're ever going to come back to work, if they are going to get paid while they're on furlough? What are the dangers of living like you're not living in these times? Because, there are people who are going to want to constantly do the most of pretending or wearing this facade that they still got it going on and all together. Why is that dangerous financially?
Well, that is dangerous financially because, it's that old adage, keeping up with the Joneses, or kind of putting on this facade, as you had mentioned before, still trying to put on a good face where you may not have the things that you had before. That's the danger of it. It's really living in a situation where you are overextending yourself when you don't have it. And I have that conversation a lot of times with my clients, is that, who are you really trying to impress at this point? It's really the people pleasing. It comes into play because you are really outwardly trying to show that you still have it all together, but you don't. So the dangers of it is they're really affecting your overall finances for the long term if you continue to put up this charade during the times where you probably do not have the resources anymore, and you really need to kind of cut back on those things in order to survive for yourself.
I like that aspect. And I want to ask Dr. Scott a follow-up question related to something you just said, Pam. As individuals, oftentimes we don't know how to tell ourselves no, or to release ourselves from the reality of our lives. What stops people, Dr. Scott, whether it's mentally, emotionally, whatever that case happens to be, from really saying, I need to give myself a reality check and I just need to stop spending or stop trying to be like other people? What is in us that makes us just keep going when really we need to press pause?
Yeah. So that's a really complicated thing, right? But I think that, and just to piggyback on what was said earlier, I think social pressure, social pressure is like a very real thing. And that's why it's so important, because I'm thinking families, like some of the clients I work with who have aspired in life, and they've been, for Black people, we have this psychological obligation to our families and to our community. So in particular, I guess in, what would probably be our generation, it's like we owed our families and our people and our kids what we didn't have. So whenever we attain, and a lot of my clients, when you've attained a level of life where there's this expectation that you have things to offer, you have money, you have arrived, and then that you may have it, but you can't navigate it like in this political society, the way things are. And if you're projecting out to the way things may be. So this is the deal, right? And I tell people this all the time, things can get worse than they are. And if your people and your family needed you historically, then you've really got to buckle down on accountability and responsibility for yourself so that you can be there over time. You can be there in the future. So you don't want to dig yourself down in a hole and be overspending to compensate for what people might think or what people may say about where you are. You've got to face your reality. And I think you can face your reality and still protect your integrity. Because what I found with people, it's difficult for people to like be seen in our society, and in particularly in our culture, but extensively in society, where you've arrived and you've been able to help, and you've found yourself in a place where you've been blessed, and you've got this and you've got that. There are ways to protect the integrity of who people perceive you to be, and who you need to tell yourself you are, because that's how you got where you were. So there are safe ways of doing that, while at the same time communicating with authenticity and truth about the reality of where your finances and where your life is. But I think it's critical, because if you don't do it, things can get worse than they are. So buckle down. And as I always say, be patient with yourself, be easy with yourself, but don't distort your reality. Like, really buckle down and say, I really need to pull back this year on this and hold on to this. And maybe March, June, July, or sometime I can do something that we want to do, or maybe by next Christmas. But given this political climate, given this economy, we really got to go almost into crisis mode and kind of hold on to what we have and manage it and navigate it responsibly. And that's crucial if you're going to come out of this, right?
I like that. When we come back after the break, let's kind of dive into that a little bit. After the break, let's talk about what it looks like for the we of the holidays. Oftentimes, when we think of we for the holidays, it's married couple, single people with kids, people trying to go on vacations, all of these things associated with how do we create not only our new traditions, but who are we inviting into our family unit? We'll be back in a moment after the break.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Welcome back, everyone. And as you can tell, that navigating the holidays takes a lot of thought and insight for you to not only be able to enjoy it and have a great time and relax, but also you have to really think about who you're engaging with for the holidays, because it's supposed to be a time of joy and lightness, if you will. So let's jump into that, everybody, because, Pam, when I think about the holidays and people getting together, there's always somebody new that shows up for the holidays, whether it's a new girlfriend, a new boyfriend, a new baby, somebody got married and they're bringing over the bonus kids or the bonus mom or the bonus dad. Who be buying gifts for? Pam, with this limited amount of income, when people come over for the holidays, because I know our family, and we've done this literally decades, even probably since I was a kid, there's always that unmarked gift under the tree. Let's talk about the value of that gift and the thoughtfulness that should go behind it, just in case somebody else shows up for the holidays.
Exactly. Yes. That's always the case. Somebody will show up. And so, and then you don't want them to feel left out. So you'll have an unmarked gift. So, historically, I come from a very large family. I'm 7 of 8. And we all got, during the time period, during the holidays, maybe it was really tight, a kind of a token gift. And we were okay, with that, because we knew, that mom and dad may not have had the resources in order to provide for each and every one of us. So we got token gifts. So, I have been really a big proponent and really sharing the idea with my clients, especially if you have a larger family unit is to do kind of the white elephant thing, everybody, or Secret Santa. Everybody pulls a name out, and that's who you're responsible for. So you don't have to feel that you need to get a gift for each and every person. And in that way as well, the person who comes, the extra bonus person comes, they will be involved as well. Just tell somebody to bring an X amount value gift, and then we will exchange names. And then that's how you would get through that without having to overspend on holiday presents and during the holiday season.
I think that that's of value because you do want to be mindful. But Dr. Scott, I saw your eyes pop open just a little bit because does it depend on who comes? It's like, I know he didn't bring her, or how they just gonna show up with all them unannounced? And typically this is our culture. We come from families where we want to make everybody happy. It's just this big open door during the holidays. But then people are still kind of in their feelings, about who is coming over. Help us, help people when you ring the doorbell and you open and you be like, say what now? How do we deal with that?
Yeah, I think you tell me, but I think we've got to have there's an appreciation for our culture and the way we move, man. Like we do, some of our people just do the most, right? As I'm thinking about it, Jackie, I'm thinking, so that's going to happen. I mean, I don't think that stops happening in our lifetime. How do we deal with it? I think systemically for the family, it's the way families have always dealt with it. Like really, like some families just really need some post conversation on the drama and the things that happen. Like when everybody leaves, everybody's calling. There's certain groups of people calling each other and talking about what they saw and what they experienced. And that just lends itself to a holiday season of gossip and everything else. So I think that stuff happens. But this is my thought, right? And I'm hoping that the audience can relate to this, and maybe it's maturity, or maybe it's just the experience over the years, or maybe it's just the way where the culture and society is for the holidays. Holidays have a tendency to look different over time, right? And I tell clients, if your nephew, your cousin, or whoever brings this person, like, oh, they weren't invited, like, who is it? Like, who do we have at the door? What I tell people is, you can deal with that stuff like after the holidays, or you can address those things before and let people know up front like what the expectations are. But I think the essence of the holidays is thinking about who you have. And that's really been the theme in a lot of the clients I've been working with, and the framework, like reframing the way we're approaching holidays, because so many people have lost so many people. Mm-hmm. And the holidays, by the influence of social media and the way that people connect, it's so vastly different than it used to be. So I tell people, I think getting in the practice of grounding yourself in framing your experience during the holidays and looking around the room and just reminding yourself, and sometimes even journaling, who do I have? Who's ringing my doorbell? Not really about who they're bringing with them or this unannounced person, but you're really still in my life. Like, you're still here. Give me a hug, sit down. You're invited, come in, enjoy yourself. We're going to deal with the person that you brought. We're going to do that, right? But just really having a consciousness and a gratefulness and thought about who you have with you still for the holidays, and starting to frame your holiday that way. And even if it's not the greatest relationship, because sometimes people that you have conflict with, they actually keep your heart beating. Like, good fights and good arguments and good conflict at some level keeps you alive because it keeps you engaged. You've got to set boundaries around it. But I just think reframing your experiences from being so negative to being more appreciative and being conscious of what you still have left with you.
So give us a couple of tips, Dr. Scott, on how to take the high road, because I can see our audience now. If so-and-so come with so-and-so and so-and-so, like you said, our culture is very interesting. And, we have aunties and cousins who fly off the handle. Oh, no, I'm not, Lord have mercy for holidays. What are some of the tips that we can share with our audience to, do I need to go to another room? Should I really go on the porch and drink my water and mind my business? Do I go fix another plate? People need real time. Dr. Scott said, this is what I need to do. So what they need to do, Dr. Scott?
Yeah, first prepare yourself, right? The people in your family that move like that. So prepare yourself for that. And if communicating it to them, and that's what we talked about earlier, boundary setting, if communicating with them is going to be beneficial and maybe set the boundary ahead of time, then do that. But who the people in your family that moves like that. So you got to get prepared for it. But the other thing is this, right? You can't continue year after year to let people you love and you care about destroy the opportunity and the connection that you're actually trying to create for them.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So you've got to think about, like, you are actually like the architect of not only the environment and the experience, but you're the architect of the connections. You're the architect of setting how things are going to go. So if you've got to play board games that are different than you've done in the past, if you can't do the music, like, you've got to do things and put people in experiences that get them to where you want them to be and how you want things to go. And that may mean you changing up some things about the way the whole experience is designed. Maybe, playing games that you've never played before, playing games that promote more conversation and more. That's a good thing. Engaging people in things that provoke thought, conversation, and depth. Keep all the fun. That's a natural, right? But I think engaging in conversation and depth. And then, Jackie, yes, go to the other room, hold your breath, ground yourself, pray, close your eyes, start praying. Do all of those things. But at the same time, I think the most important thing is set those expectations in the beginning and communicate those expectations, and remember that you get to create how your experience is going to be, and don't let people ruin that experience for you.
I can appreciate that. Pam, I'm going to ask you this question, because as a new mother in love, how do you set the tone for your new family? And I know that there are a lot of people out there who got married at Valentine's Day and all those other times in between. So this is the first Thanksgiving where it's my house, it's your house. We're going to do your parents, my parents, all of those things now, because people have made adjustments, as Dr. Scott has said, that it's not just in one place. How are you preparing, and what are some of the ways, that you can share with folks out there to bring in new family and enjoy the experience together?
Oh, definitely. It's a matter of really finding kind of common ground, So my son and his wife, they actually live out of town. So it makes it a little bit easier. So it's not a my house, your house. So what they generally do is do Thanksgiving and the holidays where they are living in Pennsylvania. And then they would come and visit us afterwards. So we have that dynamic as well. But my daughter-in-law is an excellent cook, so I have her fix a couple of dishes as well. Some non-traditional things that I would have had in my particular situation, but it's an add-on. So she has certain things that she loves to cook, so I allow her to provide for that the new dishes and what I call a traditional, let's say, Thanksgiving. Same thing with Christmas. They like to get started Christmas real early. So it's like November 1st, and then the tree is up and all of that sort of thing. I'm not so much, but I love to look at their home that they have decorated. So I think Saturday they'll be decorating their home for the holidays as well. So taking some of those things as well as what I do with my new daughter-in-law and some of the things that she brings to the table.
When we come back after the break, let's continue this conversation about creating new traditions, how those traditions move not only us forward, but also they allow our young adults to find a space just for them so that they can create their own. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
For the holidays can be so much fun. Actually, it's my favorite time of the year. Pam, I want to continue this dialogue with you about creating new traditions. And Dr. Scott, let's talk about that as well. Because there are times when, okay, I'm going to put it like this. For you parents out there who don't want your children to grow up and live their own lives, this segment is for you. Let's talk about that for a moment. I'm going to start with Dr. Scott, because parents don't know how to release themselves when they've been accustomed to having their children all to themselves. Christmas is for mama and it's all about her, et cetera, et cetera. How do we help mature, seasoned mamas and grandmamas out there understand that it's okay for their children to grow up and start their own traditions?
How do we do that? Wow, should we do that? Actually, that's a challenge. I'm originally from Louisiana, so I come from deep-rooted grandmothers, great grandmother, mom family, and they've got traditions, and I think I've stuck to those things all my life. I'm careful around that, right? Because what I'm seeing in the culture is that historically, parents and grandparents, those you parents out there, you have done a good job. Let me put that on the table. You have done a good job at securing the opportunity to influence your children and generations, your grandkids and generations after you. You've done an excellent job. As a matter of fact, parents have you did it with less than, probably in some ways less than you could have done it with, and you made that happen. And parents have this, and I want to speak directly to the parents just for a second, Jacquie. Parents have had a historical influence in families and culture, and you should be celebrated and you should be applauded for that, right? And I understand that it's very, very difficult to give away what has really held the family together. And I'll be honest with you, there's a big part of me, both clinically and personally, I would say I would wish you held on to. Because I'm afraid that if you give it away, the next generation may not be able to sustain what you've done in doing things the way you've done them. That has brought everybody together. And our grandparents and great-grandparents had done an even better job at it. But this is the deal. If we wanted to survive, it's not about you letting it go. But you have got to get at least two of the kids or nieces or nephews or some family members, two younger family members, intimately involved in the magic that you've been able to create for so many years for the family. If you don't do that, everything you've done is going to go away. So my recommendation is engage, identify, 2, 3 people, one person that you know can take this tradition of the way you've done things and take it even further, even after you're gone. But if you don't start now, all the work you've done in bringing your family together and how you've done it and what you've done and the decisions you've made, and you don't want to get away from them, if you don't do that part, your family loses what you've built over the years. And as divisive as society has become, and particularly with dividing families and separating families and people living in their own corners and doing their own things, I think what you've been doing for a long time is very, very special. And your family needs it. So you've got to start helping somebody continue the tradition. That's going to mean compromise and bargaining, sharing, letting them share their ideas and getting engaged. That would be my recommendation.
I like your recommendation because it ties into what Pam was saying about the relationship that she's developed with her daughter-in-law, and being able to say, this is what they do well, this is what they enjoy, this is how we include her as a part of the family. Pam, oftentimes, especially, with the clients that we all have, there's always that negative spin that people have a tendency to put on it versus using the positive spin. I mean, share with me the delight that you have and your daughter-in-law being, involved in creating these new traditions for, your son, which is something he enjoys and appreciates because it brings the family together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Before I answer that, I do want to step back and kind of mention what Dr. Scott had mentioned, these family traditions that your parents had over the years. When my mother passed away, several years ago, unfortunately, I think a lot of that was lost because she may not have, infused that for the next generation. Now, I know with me, I have some of those, but maybe with grandkids and some of the people that are in St. Louis, that's where I'm originally from, may have stepped away from some of those traditions. So, listening to what Dr. Scott had mentioned, makes me a little sad because I think some of that has gone away. So that's why, in my particular family unit, it's really trying to keep what I have in terms of my traditions, but really being open to some other things that I can bring, or at least my daughter-in-law can bring to the table. She has a German background. So last year, actually, she made a dish for New Year's, which was very interesting, but very delicious. But it was something that was in their tradition that they had every New Year's. With us, with Black folks, it's the collard greens and all of those things, those traditional things that we have. But introducing that particular dish in with everything else was impactful, and it was very delicious, and we'll probably end up doing that again this year. So really being open to having some of those traditional things that you could infuse into your own traditions really, really helps.
I can respect what both of you are saying, because as I'm listening, there's this thread, that's kind of running through this dialogue. Some people are pulled into family tradition. Some people are just placed there because they're good at what they do. And some people prefer just not to show up at all. And I'll have to admit, I'm a every other year on and off holiday person. There are times that I just want to travel, and not because I don't like family, but because of my life and how busy we are. Those are the only times that we kind of get to spend time together. But then there's also the missing of the turkey and the dressing and, somebody's favorite dish that they cook that I love so much that I do want to enjoy. When we think about this holiday season and, as we talk about tradition, what are some new traditions that are okay for families to do, especially as we think about balancing our health, our mental health specifically, so that we don't always end up in toxic things, but also the physical health of just eating too much? Because I'm telling you, gluttony is a sin. And during the holidays, I literally have to lose 5 pounds in order to eat, especially this year, because mother-in-law, father-in-law, they're cooking and everybody's bringing something. So, this holiday season, I am anticipating gaining weight. Dr. Scott, the psychology of food and the comfort that it brings. Talk to us about that. Why is it just so yummy and much better during the holidays?
No, like no, that's a real thing. I mean, that's I'm from Louisiana, right? So, um, I'm eating, like I'm eating, right? I would say, I try to implement I eat well. I mean, I eat good throughout the year, but when it comes to the holidays, I'm eating. There's no diet or anything like that involved. I want the turkey the way it's always been. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure about that one, Jackie. I think if I'm thinking about clients. If I told clients, like, um, you could cut back on this or that. Thanksgiving from a food perspective just may not be what it for Christmas may not be what it needs to be. Man, so I think getting into a better eating routine, better diet routine, water, exercise, relaxation, stress reduction. I think getting into that as a lifestyle, a life habit. And then when Christmas comes around, I think it's really time to eat. This is the thing: the older you get, the less you will be able to enjoy that stuff. So, but then again, some people are even older and still, still doing what they do. So, I don't know, Jackie, really how to tell people not to engage in what we cook.
Look,
Ooh, man.
sir. I mean, it's the psychology of food in itself. It's sort of like I want the greens, but can I have it with turkey and not the ham hock? Because I've worked really hard at not getting on blood pressure meds. And so I'm really careful with like what's in it.
Yeah.
I will ask the question, how is it been prepared? Just so that I am maintaining, my own health and sanity and my finances. Because Pam, I do not want to have any financial crisis because I ate the wrong thing, going into the new year. And I've known it to happen to people. So I guess it is difficult. So if neither of you can tell us how not to do it, because being from Texas, there's going to be the Bluebell ice cream. I can't wait to have that on something, whatever it's going to be, or in a root beer float. Roland's people, my husband's people, are from Louisiana, so we've seen the list, Dr. Scott. It includes a Wednesday night gumbo before the Thursday turkey. So I am already looking at this 3-4 day menu. And then of course somebody's going to make the turkey nachos with the leftovers. And then there's the turkey tetrazzini after the fact. So it's just going to go on and on. So Pam, what is your favorite holiday, either dessert, or are you a turkey or ham girl?
So I am a turkey girl, and not too much the ham, but and I'm just gonna say it in terms of, I think everything could be done in moderation. So, we're getting older, me and my husband, and so, he is on some blood pressure medicine, unfortunately, and so his, cardiologist said there has to be some modifications. So, so unfortunately, for Thanksgiving, we may be making some modifications on the menu. He loves the Cajun turkey that we generally do. We buy it from Popeyes, but, kind of cheating that way. But some of the other things, is probably the turkey and the greens instead of the ham hocks. And so making some modifications to the dish, but everything needs to be done in moderation, especially as you get older. You want to keep your health up because, like you said, if you don't, that could be a medical situation. And then that, unfortunately, that leads to spending more money on health insurance and medication and all of those things. So you do have to kind of step back and do it that way. But I'm a turkey girl. Favorite dessert, I love sweet potato pie, so that's my guilty pleasure that I do have to have regardless, even though I'm trying to cut down on my sugar. But that's one of the things that I have to have it during the holidays is sweet potato pie.
All right, Dr. Scott.
Yeah, so I'm a turkey wing guy, right? I'll take both the wings off your turkey, and I'm sorry, I apologize for that, but and I think and collard green and cornbread. I'm a cornbread and milk guy. Like I'll take your cornbread, put milk in it, sprinkle a little sugar. Like for me, I think like I said, earlier, I think healthy eating and dieting is like a lifestyle. So when I get to the holidays, I'm going after your turkey. I'm going after your turkey wings. When I was younger, it was a turkey leg, but then I realized it wasn't as good as that wing was. So, yeah.
Definitely. So I will say for me, I only like a particular part of the honey baked ham, and that's the crispy, sugary part just across the top. I'll leave all the rest, and definitely, going to have some turkey and dressing and some other things. And yeah, I'm already trying. I'm going to lose these 5 pounds these next 30 days so I can gain 5 pounds back during the holidays. That's just, what it's going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have enjoyed something that we have stated today and something that will help you balance out your holidays from your relationship to your finances. When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflection.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. And as you can tell, the holidays are filled with so many mixed emotions, whether you're trying to determine what gifts to buy and when to shop, or trying to determine, how to cope and manage all the anxiety and the things that you feel about people who may be showing up at the door or who you may be sharing a table with. It's all up to you to be in relationship with yourself first before you can be in relationship with other people. So remember, enjoy the holidays. It is your presence that matters, not the presents that are under the tree. Thank y'all for watching. Bye now.